Hi folks, Vipin here. Today we'll be talking about how do you go about improving your communication and why communication is in fact so important. Now I'm doing this video from a general point of view, not really focusing on any age group. And I'll tell you this in advance. There really is no age where you need to start to actually improve yourself. You could be like 15, 13 or 25 or 30 or 45, and you could still make an effort and go about improving your communication skills, because that is one particular skill that gave me a lot of opportunities and made me the person whom I am today. So let me tell you in fact why it's so important and how you guys can actually go about improving your communication skills as well. So let's start. Okay, what needs improvement? When I talk about communication skills, it includes many things. It includes your grammar, it includes your vocabulary, it includes the way you speak, your voice modulation. All that is something that needs to be considered. Now, one of the things that needs improvement is of course speaking skills. Okay, when I say speaking skills, I mean how you actually go about talking to different people, in English of course. Now you would notice that some people, especially some college lecturers, happen to be extremely boring. Now that's probably because they don't have a proper voice modulation. There are many people who know a lot of things. I don't doubt that. But the problem is they know a lot and they're unable to convey that to the student. And they end up talking in a monotone. When I say a monotone, it's something like this. Now, if I were to say in a normal tone, how I would say it is, Sachin Tendulkar hit a 6 in today's match. That's the way I would go about saying it. You can almost hear the excitement in my voice. If I were to say the same thing in monotone, it would sound something like this. Sachin Tendulkar hit a 6 in today's match. You can see how boring that gets when you actually change the voice from an increase or a decrease in your pitch to a flat pitch. And that really conveys in fact that you yourself are bored and you're not really sure what you're talking about. So when it comes to speaking skills, how you go about talking to different people, that's something that needs improvement. And now I'll tell you how you can actually do it. I'll get to that. The other things, writing skills. Now, why is writing skills so important? Now, I've seen some people on Facebook, especially when they comment on good-looking girl's photo, and the hilarious comments they put forth is great entertainment for me. One of the recent ones that I came across was this Malayali who happened to go about commenting on Maria Sharapova's Facebook page. Ever since she said that I don't know Sachin Tendulkar, this guy has been commenting on her Facebook page. He's been typing everything in Malayalam. Now, Maria Sharapova has actually replied to his comment and said, I can't understand what you're saying. And in response to her saying that she can't understand him, this guy continued to go about writing his comments in Malayalam. Now, that's according to me pretty funny. That is to show that these guys are really terrible in saying what they want to say, especially when it comes to typing. I have seen a lot of my students, when it comes to typing, they send me a message on Facebook with all capital letters. Now, whenever I see someone typing in capital letters, I always assume that this person is shouting at me. That's the general tone when you go about putting across capital letters. Now, these are the little things that could actually need improvement. One more, which I said, that when it comes to commenting on a good-looking girl's photo, one of the things that people go about asking is, how you want to do friendship with me? Now, I know the way I say it itself sounds lame. You can actually imagine how ridiculous it would be to actually type that on a girl's profile photo and actually expect her to reply to your dumbass comment. Then, vocabulary. Vocabulary here refers to the number of words that you know. Now, how do you why do you rather require to improve your vocabulary? Because more words help you improve your language. You will actually know what word to use in that particular situation. So that's something that is extremely important. And then of course grammar. Now you can see in that comment there, it says Human Rights and Corruption Eradication Council. Corruption Eradication Council or Forum, I'm not able to read that myself. But what that means is, now there is two types of ands which people don't really know. This is where the lovely concept of grammar actually comes in. My wife and I, in the first example that I've given there, signifies that my wife is a different person and I am a different person. Okay, but if I were to say my wife and I, that is to say that I have married myself, and that is quite ridiculous, of course. So you can see how important grammar is. Slight change in the word that you go about using or the punctuation that you go about using could give complete different meaning altogether. In that photo that you see there, the Karnataka government apparently has a council which eradicates both human rights and corruption. So I'm really looking forward to their work. Sarcasm there, of course. So how do you go about improving? Now, first thing you could do is read good books. Now, when I say read good books, I mean particularly ones which actually improve your imagination significantly. Now, I was brought up reading Amar Chitra Katha. I have a massive collection of Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle. Now, the stories in Tinkle and Amar Chitra Katha were an excellent way for me to improve my imagination and my language while I was growing up. My mom did an excellent job when she was raising me. She would always bring me the latest issue of Tinkle or any new comic released by Amar Chitra Katha. So, be it the Mahabharata or the Jain stories or stories of Akbar, Birbal, whatever it is, she would get me some issue or the other, and I would finish it off in a few minutes. Now, even though I would read it in a few minutes, I would actually learn a lot. I remember when I first started to read one of these issues, I came across a word called miracle, and I had no idea how to actually go about interpreting that word. So I ended up asking my mom, what is the meaning of the word miracle? And my mom didn't really understand that word, so she told me to go about checking a dictionary. So when I checked a dictionary, I understood that, okay, miracle equals magic. It is more or less related to magic. So that's how I was able to improve my language. When you read good books, you will come across a lot of words which you don't know yourself. And when you go about reading these words, it adds to your vocabulary, and you're able to use these words in a situation sometime later on in your life. Now, there are some fantastic books you guys can actually read, and I don't mean the Indian authors which are quite popular. I don't want to mention the names, but I can recommend some really good books like The Devotion of Suspect X. You can actually read a lot of Marvel and DC comics. It might sound childish, but it's going to make your brain young, and that is something which I strongly recommend. There are excellent books by J.K. Rowling. Apart from the Harry Potter series, the recent one, she's written under alias. I forget the name of the author that she's written under. The Cuckoo's Calling or something it's called, one of the recent books of hers. That's a really good book, and I've started to read another book called The Maze Runner. Now, when you read such books, it also improves your language, it also improves your imagination. It really gives you an introduction to an entirely new world, and believe me, the feeling is fantastic when that happens. And then follow current affairs. Now, when you follow current affairs, you're able to learn both general knowledge, and also it helps you improve your language overall. It could be reading the newspaper, watching the news. I wouldn't advise you guys to watch English news channels which are Indian in nature, because unfortunately most of them go about promoting sensationalism. When I say sensationalism, I mean they talk about news which doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't really matter what these guys actually talk about. A very good news channel which I would suggest that everyone should watch is BBC, because I've seen that they don't really favor any political party. They talk about the entire world. Even though BBC happens to be UK related, they are in fact focusing on the entire world. So it gives you an entire world point of view rather than limiting your knowledge to just one country. So follow the current affairs. Apart from that, take part in debates or any competition that involves speaking. Now, when I say debates, I don't mean the stuff that happens at 9 p.m. in a very famous news channel. Okay? Excuse me, my cell phone should be put on silent. I think I got a message now. Yeah. So, coming back to debates. When I say debates, debates have been misunderstood in India as if they are arguments. Now, debates are just a discussion. Now, let me consider a small topic here. Is Western influence in India a good or a bad thing? And if I were to say Western culture in India is a good thing, one thing I would go about saying is it has improved our lifestyle. It has exposed us to a variety of new things. Like, for example, when it comes to technology use, when it comes to communication, when it comes to building our knowledge in science. So that's a very positive thing. Now, when I were to talk about the negative influence of Western culture in India, people have lost their Indian roots, or rather many people whom I know try to act who they are not really at heart. And that's something which Western culture emphasizes on. Try not to be yourself, try to be someone else. That's something which Western culture actually does. Now, this is a debate. I don't really counter the other guy saying that, no, how dare you say that Western culture is a good thing. Or I never really say that, okay, Indian culture is better than this, or Western culture is better than Indian. It's just a discussion. It's supposed to be healthy and not really people fighting with each other when they have that. You can have these topics with your friends, something very simple. Okay, and you will actually see how much you can learn from your friend and how much your friend can learn from you. And when you guys go about talking like this, it automatically improves your communication. And that's a really, really wonderful thing. And then, of course, any competition that involves speaking, elocution, take part in Toastmasters. Or if you don't really want to be part of Toastmasters, pick a topic from the newspaper, pick a small article from the newspaper and read it out in an empty room. I would do this in my college days, when I was doing my BBM. I would come early to class, lock the door, and I would just talk to the empty class. It might sound a little insane, but it actually works in the long term. You actually realize how stage fear, you can actually overcome that by just talking to an empty room. Even now, sometimes if the strength in a class is in fact too much, I always imagine that, okay, the class is empty. And that really helps me when it comes to handling a situation and not really going a little bit nutty in my brain when I actually see a big class. So that's something that you can do as well. And then, of course, attend interviews even though you don't need a job. I would attend interviews because I wanted to know what kind of questions these guys ask. Many of the interviews I attended, even after getting a job, was more or less time pass. Now, I'm sorry if I wasted their time, but I wanted to do this because I wanted to improve myself. I wanted to be prepared for the kind of questions these guys would ask. So it's okay, you would not get that job, but nonetheless you walk out learning something. You are able to interpret the interviewer's questions and you are able to review yourself in the quality of answers that you gave. So that's a really nice thing. And then a role model may help. So for me, my role model was my cousin, Vikram. And I remember when I was growing up, Vikram was always someone who spoke better than everyone else in the family. So this guy was a person who knew a lot about a lot of things. And I remember during these family functions, he could gather a massive crowd and explain to them something related to art, some experience he had with his friends, something he would do that wonderfully. And that for me was something which I found pretty spectacular. I wanted to be this guy. I wanted to talk like him. And I worked really hard to actually achieve that goal in terms of improving my language over a course of time. And yeah, having a role model can actually help. Now, when you guys have a role model, I know a lot of people have role models in terms of actors, especially Bollywood actors. Rather than admiring for them, okay, they're extremely good looking, admire them for the kind of language that they use. Now, I've noticed that Shah Rukh Khan, the movies that he makes I'm not really a big fan of his movies. But when it comes to interviews, the way he answers questions, the way he goes about conveying any information, that is something to be admired about. In the recent news where Preeti Zinta was unfortunately in the midst of something, and a news reporter went on to ask Shah Rukh Khan, what's your take on this? The way he gave out that answer was one of the most politically correct statements I've ever come across. He was able to push away the news reporter and say that very politely, of course, and say, don't involve me in all this. This is not something that I need to be concerned about, and neither should you be concerned about in the first place. Then, do the crossword. If you're getting Deccan Herald, I don't know about other newspapers, but I used to get Deccan Herald. Deccan Herald would always have a page where you could go about doing the crossword. And the crossword was really nice. There was one, the regular crossword, and the other one which was cryptic. The cryptic crossword, till date, I have no idea how to actually go about answering it. But the regular crossword is something that really picks your brain. That's a wonderful way to actually go about improving your imagination. Now, I remember this word wherein it was a three-letter word for mimic, M-I-M-I-C. What is a three-letter word for mimic? It turned out to be ape, A-P-E. So I realized that the word ape, that is our cousins, our genetic cousins. The word ape is actually meaning to mimic. In other words, they've been named after mimicking our behavior, or vice versa. Hard to say. So that's something which you learn through crossword. You learn a whole new set of words. Another word I remember, it was a 5-letter word for nose, and it turned out to be a word called snout, S-N-O-U-T. So you learn a lot of new words when you actually do the crossword. It's a really, really fun way to actually make your brain work. And of course, a wonderful time pass, especially in the afternoons while you're having tea or pakoras. Then, what is it that you must accept? Firstly, you will fail at the first attempt, or I did at least. I remember the first time I got on stage, I would talk to my feet. I had my head down, had a small arch in my back, and I was terrified to talk to a crowd. If you're going through this, believe me, it's a very, very normal thing. No one is able to come on stage and magically start speaking wonderful English. It just doesn't happen. We all have that fear that the person whom we are facing is going to judge us. And that is what actually gets you that anxiety, that nervous attack. And you start slurring your speech and you start losing your train of thought. So that's a very normal thing. If that has happened to you, yes, welcome to the club. You are no different than I when I started to improve my language. And then it's not an easy path. There are many hurdles that you will come across. Like you will feel a little bad that there are a lot of people who speak better than you. You will feel hurt that they are better than you. By default, human beings have this ego tendency that I am the best. And when you actually see that, okay, someone is better, it really hits you hard. And for me, when I saw my cousin that he can speak so well, that is something that actually hit me hard. But I took it as a positive thing. He speaks so well, so let me try and make sure that I come on par with him. That's how you go about accepting these sort of things. And then it's not an overnight miracle. I started improving my communication, I think when I was 18 or 19, in the first year of my graduation or the second year of my graduation. And that's like 7 years now. So it's a very, very long-term effort. I actually got over my stage fear after I finished my graduation. It wasn't an easy thing for me to do. When I was in my sales jobs, when I was working for Reliance Communications during my PUC in 2003, I had memorized the script to actually use with customers. Now I was so terrified because I knew very well that having something memorized in my head, and if the customer asked me something else, I wouldn't know how to go about answering it. Now that's one more thing that people would actually face, especially when you go about memorizing stuff. So to actually have words come out, have words and sentences form in your brain, and you speak it in an even flow, It actually takes a large amount of time for that to happen. So don't expect that to be an overnight miracle. So I hope you found my advice and my information helpful. If you have any queries, do leave them in the comment section below. And thank you for your time. Have a nice day. Bye.